I make fun of poor white people because I was once poor. And I know that the only difference between a poor black person and a poor white person is that a poor white person feels like it's not supposed to be happening to them.
This is such bullshit. I've never been so pissed in my whole life. I just murdered Charlie Kirk right here in Utah. I'm so freaking pissed right now. This is bullshit. I just saw blood squirting out of his neck. I love that guy. He would have been our next president. I am so pissed right now. Why do they always come with fucking violence? Gosh damn it. Use your freaking words as they're talking to you people. Who shot Charlie Kirk? I'm driving down a Provo right now. I'm so pissed.
It's over. It passed. And this is what that means for so many Americans. Billions of dollars cut from Medicaid, which affects millions of Americans. The poorest of the poor people in this country are going to lose their health care, be unable to feed themselves, and this is what people wanted. And the richest people in this country will get a tax cut. So if you're not upset, then I'm confused. If this is what you want, I think you need to take a much deeper look at who you are and what you stand for, because this is devastating to so many people in this country. You are often one step away from needing assistance.
Right. The problem with the white community is only one. The white community have lived all their lives knowing that the black community has to suffer. Like, black people are entitled to suffering. That is what they've always known all their years, that the black people have been entitled to suffering. Anything associated with suffering, anything associated with problems, difficulties, misfortunes, predicaments is entitled to a black person. And that is why for years, black people have been complaining about their rights. They've been complaining about mistreatment in America, but nobody has ever paid attention on them. Why? Because the white people, even themselves, they knew and they've lived understanding and knowing suffering belongs to the white community, to the black community. They are entitled to suffering, and therefore, even if they cry, we're not supposed to have empathy on them. We're not supposed to sympathize on them because they're entitled to suffering. And this has made the black people to nurture, to become stronger, to become people who can endure all, because for years they've been suffering. Nobody cared about them. They've been suffering. No one was concerned. Nobody it was none of their business. And therefore, it really helped the black community a lot because they learned how to survive in difficult situations. Now, the white people are so shocked that the black people are not suffering because as they are crying, they can't see the black community crying, and they begin wondering, so what is happening? So how is it possible? Why is it that we are crying because of what is happening in our country, and the black community themselves, they're living like they're just okay? I want you to take a look at these videos. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you to subscribe if it's your first time you're watching me. And for the returning subscribers, I really do appreciate you. Now, I want you to take a look at these videos. Have your thoughts shared with me on the comment section. I will also have my thoughts shared with you at the end of the video. Until then, let's take a look at the video.
85% of welfare and food stamp moochers are white, live in southern red states, and vote for Republicans.
There are no organizations dedicated to the welfare of rural whites.
How many people have noticed that just about every Democratic policy that white conservatives despise, they benefit most from?
So I posted about white folks on food stamps, and one thing I kept seeing was that welfare was created for white people. I knew that it was created during the New Deal, so I did some more research because I didn't really know the whole story, and I thank you guys for responding and helping me learn stuff. So during the Great Depression is when we saw the beginning of things like Social Security, unemployment insurance. But here's the kicker. When Franklin Roosevelt built those programs, he had to make deals with Southern Democrats in Congress, the same folks who were big fans of Jim Crow, to get the support of these racist white Southern politicians. The programs were designed to exclude farm workers, domestic workers, jobs held overwhelmingly by Black, Latino, and Indigenous people. So right from the start, Black and brown families were pushed out of benefits so that white people could get them. Then we move forward to the 1960s, and there's this war on poverty. It finally opened up welfare programs more broadly, and that's when food stamps became permanent. Well, permanent, we don't know what Trump's going to do to them, but they lasted a long time. And guess what? The minute more Black and brown families started accessing this help, the politics shifted. Welfare got a new image and a new target. By the 1980s and 90s, with Ronald Reagan and his gang, they pushed the welfare queen myth. That's a racist dog whistle meant to turn public opinion against safety nets by blaming Black women for poverty that white policies created. That's the truth, you guys. So yes, welfare was built for white people, and when others finally got in the door, they tried to burn the house down. If you want to blame the right people, you got to get curious.
You want to talk about white privilege? I was born dirt poor. Roaches in our food, mattresses on the floor, eviction notices taped to the doors, kind of poor. My parents, their side hustle was beating me and my siblings bloody. I missed more meals than I can count. When we did eat, it was ramen, canned foods, or whatever we could steal from the gas station. There were 8 of us kids. Don't come at me like I grew up in some quiet backwoods town either. We weren't hearing deer rifles, we were hearing 9mm and Glocks on a nightly basis. Not because we were hunting, because we were dodging stray bullets in the inner city. I had a baby as a teenager, thought maybe I could break the cycle, went to college, flunked out quick. Life was swinging before I even had a chance to plant my feet. Then the military came knocking, promised me structure, a future, and a way out. What I got? Another flavor of hell. Straight out of basic, they shipped me to Afghanistan. 19 years old, couldn't buy a beer back home, but I could carry a rifle, kick indoors, and watch friends die in pieces. I came home to a wife who had cheated on me while I deployed, ended in divorce, missed my baby's first steps, first words, first everything. I got the title Dad, but only for 2 days every other week when the courts allowed me. So I drank, I numbed it out, I drowned it in alcohol and women, hopped from job to job, security, government contracts, even worked with the feds for a minute, but it all fell apart. I ended up homeless, ashamed, alone, and broken. Now, I've been sober for 4 years, been through more therapy than most folks can stomach, read hundreds of books, and here's what I figured out. As bad as I have had it, if I was black, I probably wouldn't have survived it. That ain't an opinion, that's truth. Black Americans make up 13% of the population, but 38% of the prison population. 1 in 3 black boys born today, they're expected to end up behind bars. That ain't by accident. That is policy. That's centuries of systemic racism passed off as justice. The 13th Amendment did not abolish slavery, it rebranded it. It says slavery is legal as punishment for a crime. That's why we got corporations making billions off of prison labor, while folks inside earn cents an hour if they're lucky. That clause was written to target black Americans, and it's still doing exactly that. Now I run an organization called West Virginia Fights Back. We feed people, we take care of people. No strings, no red tape, no begging for scraps. We take care of our own because the government won't. My dream? A Fights Back chapter in every damn state. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Burn the cage down. Build something real in its place. Fred Hampton said, you can jail a revolutionary, but you cannot jail the revolution. This is not about shame. This is about responsibility. If you've had the privilege of not being targeted by the system, you've got the duty to help tear it down.
In America, there is a misconception about who is on welfare. Now, let me just say this. There is no one program in the United States that constitutes welfare. There are many social programs in the United States that are part of what the United States calls the social safety net, which is really not much of a safety net at all when you consider the meager benefits that people receive. So what I've decided to do is look quickly at the statistics from the last census. Now, this holds true going back, but actually in the last 20 years, it has increased. The number of people receiving public benefits of some sort or another has increased amongst one particular demographic, and that is amongst white people. 20 years ago, 61% of all the people receiving public benefits of some kind in the United States were white people. Today, or as of 2022, or as the last census, 76.2% of all the people receiving some form of public benefit were white people. And the rest were people of color, 13%, people of Asian extraction, 6%, give or take, and people of Hispanic, somewhere down in the middle there. So let's just talk about what constitutes public benefits. So I'm going to read this list here, and this is what makes up all of welfare, if you will, in the United States. Medicaid, SNAP, WIC, free or reduced price school meals, SSI, TAANF, energy aid, rental subsidies, unemployment compensation, and assorted other programs. So 40 million people in the United States live in poverty, and that number approximately is the number of people who receive public benefits of some kind. And of course that varies when you include Social Security recipients, Medicare, etc., which is not it's an earned benefit. So I'm going to eliminate that for the moment. So of those people, the number of people receiving public benefits, welfare, if you will, some form of social program, social safety net support, as I said, 76.2% are whites. So I think this is important to remember when people start talking out of their ass.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like, we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like, it affects us different ways, intersectionality, but like, it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
Welfare is for citizens, and citizens have always been white. Between 1775 and 1855, the United States government issued over 500,000 land bounty grants. These grants went to people who served in the military, but here's the thing, they were transferable, so you could sell them, and that's what soldiers did. White soldiers, because even though there were black soldiers serving in every war since the Revolutionary War, only white soldiers were eligible for land bounty grants. You can't own property if you are property. Ugh. So the pale privates and Caucasian colonels were eligible to get these land bounty grants, and they would get them from the government, and then they would sell them to somebody else. Oh, did I forget to mention these were big-ass plots? So they could definitely sell like 80 acres and live on the other 20. Or 60 acres and live on the other 40. Never. Welfare is for y'all. It's always been for y'all.
Now, let me tell you something. As the black people were suffering, and as the black people were going through all kind of things that they were going through, God was preparing a way for them. And God was really preparing something good for them. Now, this is one thing that the white community did not realize. They claim to be Christians. They claim to be reading the Bible. They claim to be so religious, and they love God. But they do not know the ways of God. They don't know how God normally works. God is telling you to treat your brother the same way you would love to be treated, to love your neighbor as though you were loving yourself. But they have not been doing the same. They preach it in the church, but when they come out, they don't do the same. They didn't know that the neighbor or the friend that God was talking about, that God was asking them to treat them as though they're treating themselves, was the black people. They did not thought, it never came near their mind that the black people can be our brother or our neighbor that God has been asking us to treat better and to love. So they mistreated them. And as they were doing that, God says, when people dismantle you or disentitle you, I give you title. When people throw you away, I bring you closer to me. When people despise you, I make you somebody people would love to associate themselves with you. Black people, that is what they went through. They were entitled. They were discharged. They were disowned. They were placed aside, resisted, segregated. They were despised. And people felt comfortable. The white community felt comfortable. They felt like it is the right of the black people to suffer. It is the right of the black people to go through difficult times and to pass through difficult moments. It is their right. So we must make them suffer because they are entitled to suffering. Without knowing, God was making the black community stronger and stronger. Now, the black community can endure all. They can go through any kind of fire, any kind of problems, any kind of difficulties without feeling nothing. So you don't expect them to cry at a time like this. But the white community, they are crying because they never used to go through this kind of things. They were treated like kids, like infants, who were given everything and all that. The government used to look at them and take care of them while the black community were crying on the streets, carrying placards, fighting for their rights, and nobody gave a damn shit about it. Now, the white community are finding it so hard, are getting things so hard. It's difficult on them. It's hitting them differently. They don't know what to do. And what remains is them wondering, how are black people surviving? How are black people enduring this? Which skills are they using? They are shocked that the blacks are not suffering. They wonder because all their years they've known black community as people who are supposed to suffer and people who are supposed to go through difficult times. But the God of the black people had been preparing the way and the life for the black community all the years. And that is why you see what is happening right now. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I'll do my best to make sure I read all the comments and give a response where possible. I am the Black Empire, your presenter. Don't forget to subscribe if it's your first time to be here. God bless.